Hey, welcome all for coming. And here we go. There you are. Hey, man. I see you got in real okay.
Yeah, I logged in real
Hey.
quick.
Hey, can you guys believe it's fall already? How's the weather everywhere, everyone? Because in Cali, it's still warm, but it's not hot. Oh, look, we have a guest today. Hey, Classy.
Hey.
What's going
Just
on,
in
man?
time. Perfect timing. How long do we have you, Classy? So that way I know and I can plan for the discussions that you are so good at on some of these questions.
At least an hour or so.
Oh, okay. We got time then. So how's the weather up in Ohio now? This is officially fall, right? We had Labor Day a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with Ohio, but we can experience all 4 seasons within a 6-hour period. So what it is today.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
you're in like that area where everything comes up from the south, comes from the west, comes from the north, right?
Yeah, being on the snow belt, like it sucks.
The tornado belt, the snow belt,
that's right.
Hurricane belt. That's funny.
And it's football season. And if you guys don't know, USC let go of their coach. I don't want to say anything bad, but it's about time. Let's hope we hire someone cool like Urban Meyer, maybe. We had a shot at Urban Meyer when he was at Utah, and then we went with Pete Carroll instead. And that was fine. I'm not complaining. But isn't that weird how things worked out after that? He's such a good coach.
He didn't have a great start at Jacksonville, so maybe, we'll see how it goes.
I'm hearing he doesn't like the NFL at all.
Well, you may have another shot at him yet then.
If we can afford them. All right, let's jump in. We got some amazing news. I want to just get into it. New TV technologies. Okay, so people are complaining, hey, are we mature? Is it MicroLED the next big thing? So we have LG DirectView LED Extreme Home Cinema. Now, this is not cheap, so I'm not going to talk it up. Hey, run to your store and get it. It is definitely custom installation only, but it is ready for prime time, unlike Samsung. Samsung's The Wall is not yet ready for home installations, but LG's is. So we'll go into that. But what's really exciting is this 240 hertz 85-inch gaming TV with VRR. We'll talk about that. And then at the end, we'll talk about, as we get closer to Black Friday, price drops, right? We're going to focus on 75-inch TVs today, and I'll tell you why in a bit, because I was frankly quite surprised at how quickly consumers are adopting 75-inch size. So that's going to be quite fun. Yeah, let's jump into the new technologies that you guys always ask me about. Hey, FOMO, when's that next big thing that's not the same old OLED, right? So this is a quick promo video that LG put out for its LG DirectView LED. It is almost micro LED like the Wall, and they're completely upfront with the pitch size. The pitch size is around 0.9 or 900 micros, and you need to be under 0.5 to be a real mini LED. No one is at this point because it's just too expensive, but you know what? This is good now. So let's see what happens. It's really quick. So intense black immersion. So they're saying that each pixel is fully controlled. You get the deep blacks of OLED essentially, right? Now, what's interesting is this could go from 80 odd inches all the way up to 8K 300 something inches. That is over $1 million. We're talking in the millions. So if you look at 8K in the hundreds of inches, that's in the millions of dollars. But you'll be surprised how accessible the least expensive one is, right? So we'll talk about the least expensive one. And yes, it's under 6 figures. Can this beat OLED? And maybe that's why LG is putting it out.
That's crazy.
And it's RGB. It's nothing special. It's not wider gamut. It is wider than OLED. And it is likely as wide as the best LCD TVs. I would say somewhere along the lines of what Vizio used to be at one point, or Samsung. Okay, so let's look at the basics, right? So it's 0.9 millimeter pitch, which is generally the same size as the Wall. So it's no different than the Wall, maybe a touch smaller than the Wall. 2K, which is regular HD, or 4K, 800 nits. This, to me, are the best performing sizes right here, right? The 163-inch 4K and the 81-inch 2K. So these are the smallest pitch sizes, but look at the nits, right? 800 nits. And a lot of you are saying, what? 800 nits? Why can't it get any brighter? And well, the problem is if you get too bright, you're going to have light leakage. And this is as bright as it's going to get. But any brighter and you'll have issues. But trust me, at 160 inches, 800 nits, that's pretty bright, even in a bright room. This is designed for bright rooms. But let's get to the nuts and bolts. Can you afford it? Maybe. Okay. But before we jump in there, how big do you need? So this is a quick calculator, right? At the 81-inch size UHD, that's 8-foot viewing distance, 130-inch at the HD, 12 feet, right? That's not bad. And then 163-inch, 15 feet. And how I calculated it is about a 43-inch viewing angle. So 43-inch is pretty close. That means if you had a 65-inch TV, you're about 7 feet away. That's the equivalent. So you can really enjoy this immersion. And let me tell you guys, when I was 10 feet away from the 100-inch ultra short throw projectors on Sunday, I was telling Brian, Whisper Status, I can't go back. I want that 100-inch because I think 10 feet viewing distance, 10 to 11 feet viewing distance is a sweet spot for many people. I do think 100 inches is going to be the future because most people sit around 10 feet away because I get a lot of questions from you guys. Hey, I'm about 10, 11, 12 feet. And the largest TV we're going to find is 85 inches. And frankly, 85 inches is, I mean, it's all you got, but I think it's still too small for a 4K TV. Okay, let's talk prices. So this is the crazy part. The reason why LG has moved to direct view LED, they are finding that they're selling, okay, and I know Classy, you're one of them, as well as myself, as well as Brandon and Brian. 1 in 5 OLEDs sold this year are 77-inch plus, meaning it's either 77-inch or 83 inches. Isn't that crazy? 20% of all OLEDs sold today, this year, are over 77 inches. So
Nice.
that tells me, one, it's becoming more affordable, but more importantly, LG knows they want it larger, but they can't afford the 8K 30,000, right? Well, as if they could afford this one. So let's talk about the cheapest, least expensive is this. $70,000 for the 500 nit, 130-inch, 1.5 millimeter pitch. Now, the reason why I put 130-inch here is because in an earlier, how far away are you, right? At 130 inches, you're 12 feet away. At 12 feet away, 4K HD, it's not as soft as you would think, right? I mean, it's definitely sharp enough. Many of you would disagree, but I'm thinking, well, what do you think, Classy? Do you think at 12 feet away, HD is good enough, or you still want 4K at 12 feet away? What are your thoughts on that resolution? Because 70,000 is almost affordable for some people.
I mean, like when I had my projector, it was 1080p, 120-inch screen from about 14 feet. And I mean, at the time, I thought it was sharp. But I also had a Darby.
Well, and this should be at least contrast unbeatable, right? It's near infinity, just like an OLED. So I think 70,000, this is competing with the ultra high-end projectors with the best-in-class screen, all that stuff. And of course, it comes with full audio, but come on, you're paying 70 grand. I don't think you're going to use that audio. For me, I'd upgrade to the 800 nit version because it's 800 nits and it's probably another $10,000. We don't know what all the prices are, but everything requires a custom install. It's kind of cool, but definitely out of my league. And I'm hoping maybe in 5 years, it drops to under 15,000. That makes it much better. So yeah, if this is exciting to you, let me know. But I think this is something that you guys are thinking, wow, that's so expensive. Just remember, what, 15 years ago when they introduced OLED, a tiny Sony OLED was $10,000. So this will come down in price, and next thing you know, the Geek Squad will be installing it at your house. But
we have a couple laughs in the comments about almost affordable. It's
almost
funny.
Affordable, right?
I don't know if I call it almost affordable.
Well, hey, we all know how much college costs, right? What does college cost? $50,000 a year for undergrad. We're not talking you're going to get a job. So how many of you would rather?
I'm glad I went to a
college,
D3
right?
school. I went through a D3 state college, and I barely made it through there. And still have a little debt left. But
even D3 private schools, so yeah, state schools are great. I'm a big fan of state schools, but D3 private schools, like even here locally, Chapman College, 40 to 50,000. You could afford one of these TVs for 2 years of college. If your kid wants to go to college, say go to junior college so I can buy myself a TV. But let's talk about a TV you all can afford. I think this is exciting. And honestly, I didn't expect this. I've told many of you, I don't know if they're going to come out 240 hertz VRR gaming TV, and it's out. So AUO finished developing and has launched their 85-inch 4K gaming TV panel with 240 hertz VRR. So we all know VR is a problem. AUO is a panel manufacturer. I am sure they worked very closely with either MediaTek or somebody to make sure this works with their panel. So they're packaging this whole thing. And when it's unveiled this year, that means they are reaching out to TV makers. So let's talk about that, right? Number one, is this appealing to anyone? No, it's not appealing to me and Brandon because we're not hardcore gamers. But how about you, Classy? Would you consider a VA panel non-OLED if it hits 240 hertz and assuming VRR works really well?
No, not really. Because I mean, unless you're a big like Counter-Strike fan, that's about all you're going to be.
That's about it, right? See,
yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I was telling everyone, why would they do this? Like, I don't. Even 120 hertz locked is awesome, but well, let's just guess, right? Because it's out there, and a lot of these companies need to compete to win the market share. So here's my prediction: who will announce it? I think Hisense will, because those guys, they are constantly shopping the Asia and the Asia suppliers, like in Taiwan, for the best. And I think this is something that they would like to push out. Philips makes gaming monitors. They may be interested. And Samsung, because, well, they need to separate themselves and they can charge a bundle for something different. Maybe LG, but I don't think so because they don't want this to compete with the real gaming OLEDs. Panasonic, maybe, but I don't know how much they want to invest in gaming. And Vizio, I don't know. They're a little broke. They may not go with the highest end panel like that. And it's unlikely that either Sony or TCL will do this because Sony is not serious about gaming. And TCL, well, they have their own vertical integration. They'll rather use their own panels. And I haven't heard any 240 hertz panels announced out of CSOT. You guys think this will launch next year?
I'm thinking more that it's like, what was that branding for monitors, BFG monitors or whatever, the big format gaming monitors from, didn't Alienware have one? I think Asus may have had one.
Yeah, right.
So I could see it going to them.
That makes sense.
I mean, it's PC. Like you need PC for the 240 hertz.
So this would be the first 85-inch PC dedicated monitor, like Aorus, Gigabyte Aorus, or one of the, Alienware. You're right. I can see Alienware doing this. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I definitely won't be buying this because it's obvious that picture quality is a side note. It's all about latency and motion. Mm-hmm. Okay, now we talk about something that you can definitely afford and definitely want. So Brandon finally finished his X95J versus X90J review. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on his channel, right, Brandon? But then that raises the question, okay, the Sony X95J is out. The X90J has been out, but now the competition has released their TVs, very similar price points. I'd like for you guys to kind of give me a feel for where you think those TVs are in the context that if they typed in any of these TVs on Amazon or Best Buy, they're going to see these TVs pop up in similar price points. So, Classy, what are your thoughts? Because I know you've been diving deep into this.
Sorry. Someone that was in the chat yesterday came back. Anyway, the R646 is, well, that and the 546 are both actually on my list of what to get next. So I'm actually working on like now that everything's out, like full recommendation for gaming or movies at different price points. And I have the TCLs on the list, but they're to be determined.
Right.
So like, I think the X90J really is a great TV. I think it needs to drop just a little bit more. And then the X95J is significantly better enough to be worth a price bump, but not the current price. So I think the price is going to be a determining factor really, but the U8G to me is kind of like the U8G and the QNED 90 are both to me kind of like sitting in no man's land right now.
You know, talk to me about the QNED 90 because the Hisense U8G to me is kind of, well, number one, it's always sold out on Amazon, and a lot of people don't take Hisense seriously. So let's just cross that out for a moment. But the QNED 90, so you've seen all three TVs. Why is the QNED 90 in no man's land? What is it not doing well enough to compel you to keep it in there? Pricing aside, let's just take price aside.
Yeah, that the X95J to me is better, and they're priced the same, and then when they get price drops, they'll still be priced the same. And then if you want something cheaper, you have the X90J or the R646. And to me, the QNED is kind of just sitting there by itself. The 99 is actually a little more interesting because it is brighter and it has gotten a major price drop, and I'm sure it's just going to keep dropping. So that I can see having a place, but now the 90 is kind of slipping. Unless you're a gamer that has to have an LCD with VRR and Dolby Vision, that's the only situation where I can see getting it. But then you also have the R646. So
does the QNED 99 not having VRR make a difference to you?
Yeah. I mean, I was talking with KG about that yesterday, and he was like, the 99's looking good. And I'm like, yeah, except it doesn't have VRR. And then he's like, why do you always got to bring me down?
Right. Well, if you don't have a Series X and you have a PS5 only and you're not a big PC gamer, I don't think it's a big deal, right? Because even if Sony releases the VRR for the PS5, I think Sony would rather frame lock 60 and never have to deal with VRR as to the degree that they can, right?
Well, here's the question. Why would you ever pick that over a QN90A or just get an OLED, like the QNED 99? Like where could you see someone paying $3,000 for that? Like I could never recommend it. It just had such weird blooming, and it's an IPS panel for $3,000.
That's right. You saw you had the QNED 99. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it dropped $1,000 already, and I'm sure
that's because no one's going to buy the damn thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Nobody wants it. I just said in my new video about the X900H of last year how the 85-inch, I saw the 85 inches selling like crazy around Christmas, but then I realized that's probably because nobody bought them during the rest of the year, and that's why they don't have an 85-inch X90J this year, is because nobody bought it. It's like if you're going to buy an 85-inch, you want it to have some, better uniformity, anti-reflective coating, a little more brightness. So the X95J at 85 inch is a better, it's a better deal. Yeah. The 75-inch X90J is already like down to $2,000. That's a good price.
What I wanted to ask you, Classy, because this is one thing that a lot of people don't realize. When we talked earlier about the X90J, you felt that the X900H actually had better blooming because the blacks are slightly lifted, and the X90J, the blacks are a bit deeper, but of course has worse blooming. Do you still feel that way? And how does the X95J compare to the X900H in terms of blooming?
Actually, I think it's the processing that's handling the blooming differently. So on the 90J, it like transitioned faster, but the 900H had a wider area lifted, like turned on, so it was kind of less noticeable. And I felt like if you use subtitles with black bars, that the 900H was less distracting than the 90J. Just the way that they're doing it with the same number of zones.
Yeah. My biggest disappointment with the 900H was its lifted blacks and a touch worse contrast compared to last year's TCL mini LED and and the H9F. But the larger sizes, I think this could be resolved. But go ahead.
I had the 900H and the TCL, and I actually preferred the 900H over the TCL last year because the TCL had the mini LEDs, which made it smaller dimming areas, but they were really bright compared to like the Sony. Again, is it's more subtle and they're larger zones. I haven't seen this new TCL of this year. I know you said you're pretty impressed. Weren't you decently impressed by it? But what I was going to say is
right.
Yeah, sorry. I guess I asked you a rhetorical question. I should let you answer.
No.
But what I was trying to say quickly is the X90J, I actually thought it wasn't too bad. I was sitting more direct on the X90J in my comparison. And so the X95J was on the floor. And so the corners kind of looked a little bit more bloomy to me. But when I was watching them both in the dark, it was pretty even. And the fact that the X90J has a little better contrast, they both were fine. And the blooming is if you're in a perfectly black room, dark room, it is still noticeable on like subtitles and widescreen a little bit, but on full screen it's not too bad. And I could see either of those TVs being okay if definitely better than like the Nano or not the Nano, the QNEDs, because they're much more expensive.
That's a great question you bring up. Is on full screen it looks great. both you and the people in the comments section, when you watch movies or TV or content, what percentage is full screen and what percentage has black bars? Because I completely agree with you that when Sony TVs and many of these TVs on a full screen, I don't notice the blooming issues. And I think maybe Sony tests their content mostly on full screen, because until you get the black bars, two things: you don't notice the blooming as much, and you don't notice the lifted blacks, because in a full screen, it's almost all gone. What are your thoughts about the amount of content you guys have on full screen and black bars?
It's kind of just random, because, if you're watching like Sports Center, news or whatever, it's exactly. Not going to be, but like when it's movies, even now when you're watching them on HBO and other channels, you don't know what movie's going to be in widescreen or not. Like just in regular, cable, like I'm just getting like when I was recording, it was just like randomly one would be widescreen and one wouldn't be. And then the same thing happens on like Netflix. A lot of times you'll get like some that are widescreen, some aren't, and it's kind of random. But yeah, it's like 50-50 for me, besides like regular news and sports.
Okay. How about you, Classy? What are your full screen to black bar percentages as far as watching content?
Certainly higher for the black bars, because I watch more movies or newer TV shows that are shot that way. It's just really going to come down to the person and what kind of stuff they watch. But
that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the super chat, B Romes. So I've been through the 75-inch X90J to the 77-inch A80J, and now he's on the 75-inch X95J, thinking about going back to the A80J. Be curious as to why you guys choose LG versus Sony. Do we?
Well, he just means which one, how you decipher between the two. And I think for the most part, a lot of people will say if you gain, I think this is my kind of rule, is if you gain 50% or more, then it makes, there's an option to get an LG for the gaming features. But if you're primarily watch TV cable and then you game a little bit, then I get a Sony, because the processor's a little better. But I think this year they were both pretty darn good. And I don't think you can go wrong with either kinds of TVs. But for me, I'd have to say that the 77-80-inch or A80J is significantly better than the other two TVs. Unless you're in a super, super bright room, then maybe the X95J has the benefit of being in a bright room. Or if you want to get that discount, which is like $1,000, then you can get the cheaper X90J. But yeah, the A80J is, I still think that it's pretty underrated as far as the quality of it. I know some people have talked about it's dimming, but I never saw, the dimming did not bother me. And I had footage after footage after footage of it looking almost identical to the A90J. And I just didn't notice that kind of stuff. So.
Okay, that makes sense. How about you, Classy? When do you choose an LG over a Sony? Because this happens. This is a common question, because they're so gaming.
Yeah, I mean, like, so if you're on PlayStation and you're playing things that don't have HUDs, then it's not going to dim ever, as long as you're moving around in the game. It's whenever you're playing something that has a mini map or your ammo count, whatever, things like that on the screen, it detects that stuff and it starts dimming. And some people are sensitive to it, some aren't. But as far as the three options here, I'd definitely go with the A80J.
And I'll say the only time I recommend LG over Sony is because they're freaking, what a great value. The LG C10, $2,700. Well, it's not there yet, but if it ever drops to 2,700, there's no Sony OLED. That's a 77-inch that will go that low. So LG is a great entry-level OLED that does it so close to the Sony, or the C1. The difference between a C1 and a Sony A80J could be $400 sometimes, right? Now, in some days, Sony drops a price and they're only within $200. But when they're $500 apart, I cannot recommend the LG when it's that far apart, because as much as we love the differences, well, let me ask you guys, assuming you're on a budget, would you save up and pay the extra $5, or do you feel that it's not worth it, the premium, to get the Sony? Because we're talking as if it's the same price, but like right now, some of the pricing is off by $300 or $400, the difference.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they're very even. If I was to go into a store right now and get like an LG C1 or an A80J, a price could very well be the differentiator. I don't think it's worth a significant amount of money to get one or the other. If you're a gamer, maybe you opt for saving a little money. If you're a video file and you want to get the Sony, that might be a little better. But I think they're both great. I have a C10 and it's fantastic, and I think that is a great deal. And I would recommend the C10 all day long too. For someone trying to save a little money. Sorry, Classy, go ahead.
No, good. If it's like the 55 and 65 inch sizes, then I lean more towards the C1. But at the 77, you're getting the better panel quality with the Sony. You're getting better brightness, especially in average picture level. So for me, that's worth it, especially if you're just watching movies or you don't really care about gaming that much. Also,
Agreed.
as a side note, if anyone's looking for like a cheap secondary or bedroom TV, the 55-inch A80H is $1,100 right now.
Oh,
That's a good price.
That's not bad at all. I agree. Okay, so speaking of 75-inch TVs, we're talking about how large TVs are now making inroads to mainstream, and not just large El Cheapo Kmart specials, but these are what I call high-value performance TVs, meaning it's not exactly the cheapest, but they're pretty good. So today's prices right now, as we speak, they're $2,000 for the Nano Cell 90, which you guys know I do not like, or the $2,000 Sony X900H, or the $2,100 Sony X90J. And I listed kind of like generally what qualities people like about it. And I had to put in the 1800 TCL R646. It's launched, but it hasn't been released yet. And I think that's going to end up being a killer price. So these guys have to go and hit that price point. But generally speaking, many of you are waiting till Black Friday to make that upgrade to the larger TV, which I think is probably the best upgrade you guys can do beyond the extra, a little bit of brightness. Well, you get a larger TV, you get that brightness too. So before we jump into the Black Friday, I think a lot has trended and changed in the last few months. And this is based on consumer sentiment that's past month. August, it's just gotten worse, right? August is the worst. September hasn't gotten better. So now we have the lowest consumer sentiment in decades. So how these TV makers and all corporations are looking at is, as they end the quarter or end the year, they're looking at, oh my gosh, we need to get as much cash into the bank while the consumers still have money or they're still willing to buy big ticket items. That 75-inch TV is considered a big ticket item that they may not want to spend next year. Add to that, LCD TV panel prices are suddenly just crashing because of oversupply now, right? Everyone's catching up with supply. That leads to what are guesstimates for these high-value TVs come Black Friday. So does this make it more compelling, or do you guys need the prices to go even lower on Black Friday? What do you guys think about these Black Friday prices? Is it still too high?
Well, if you got the X900H for the same price as the X90J, then I would just throw the X900H right out the door because I wouldn't.
I
pay
noticed that
$50,
too, right? Like the X900H hasn't dropped in price. Like what the heck, Sony? Yeah, that's why.
I think in all honesty, TCL is going to have to be $100. It's going to have to be more than $100 less to compete with a Sony at the same price. Like if you go into a store and a Sony is $50 more than a TCL, most consumers are going to pick the Sony.
And if you guys notice, when TCL launches, it rarely drops a lot, if at all. And that's, I think, the problem here is TCL starts low, very competitive, but then they stay low. Whereas Sony starts high. By the time Black Friday, people have been in their minds psychologically saying, I'm going to get a Sony. They're not going to switch around and say, you know what? I think I'll get the TCL. So I think Sony's playing this game correct, right? Because, and actually it may go even lower. So this is my conservative estimate. It may end up going even lower than this if all they want is cash and not really to make money, but just to cash in the bank, folks. We got to hunker down for what is a questionable future in the economy of big spending TVs. So I think this is definitely going to be a great Black Friday if you're in for the high value budget premium TVs, right? But I think you're all waiting for the flagship. Now we're talking about the OLED TVs between, let's say, the Q90A up to the A80J. I think that range gets you between 2,800 and 3,500. So, and I know the Sony A80J has dropped and jumped up and dropped. So, but it's hovering around 3,500 right now. And this is why I was saying, yeah, depending on what happens on Black Friday, which I think, well, first of all, definitely do not buy the LG A1 for $2,800. I don't know.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to do that.
I don't know what LG is thinking releasing that. It gives OLED a bad name. Every review that's come out is like, yeah, this is a really dim TV. But Q90A
processor too, and then
oh,
it's
I
also
know.
got
And the worst insult is Skyworth is priced about the same. Like, you guys are terrible. I mean, I'm almost to the point where I would say get a Vizio, but I'm not quite there yet.
I would take the Vizio 120, hertz over
right.
an A8 A1. I have one, and it's a good TV. I mean, we haven't, it's fine. It's a little hinky sometimes, but yeah, I couldn't get a 60 hertz OLED for that much.
I couldn't either. But what do you think? I don't think that Samsung's going to drop much more. I mean, it's already 2,800 for the 75-inch, and it'll drop some more. But I think Samsung is trying to drop it as fast as possible early before Sony has its Black Friday drop. So by the time Sony drops it on Black Friday, it's like, oh, people bought their Samsung already, and there's no money left for the Sony. What are your thoughts about the $2,700 price point? And it ends up being the least expensive of these flagship TVs. Is it compelling compared to the other TVs for you guys, or do you want the Q90 to be even less expensive before you'd recommend it over any of the OLED options?
I would take the C10 out. I think if someone saw a C10 and a C1 with a $200 price difference and you're already paying that much, that's less than a 10% difference, unless you're just someone who's really trying to just stretch your budget. And then for the X95 and the QN90A, I think most people would just pay the extra 100 for the QN90A when they see it in store, because it's going to be brighter. And then the A80J, I think 3,200 is right about where it's going to be as well. And it's just going to pretty much, again, come down to gaming or save a few bucks on the C1, or movies, get the A80J.
Yeah. And I love that. Go ahead.
I was just going to share the screen here. Oh, real quick. I'll pull it back in a second.
Yeah, no, do it.
This is the Q90T from
look at that.
Q90T. And look, it was at 2,500 after the new year for a 75-inch. Is that accurate? Was that about where it was? $2,500 for a 75-inch Q90T?
It sold out pretty quick before spring, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was. I remember
if they got really aggressive with the QN90A, they could technically maybe get down to 25. If they got down to $2,500 for Black Friday, would you buy a 75-inch? I mean, that's a pretty low price for a 75-inch that, you don't have to have that worry for burn-in if you have that. And it's,
well,
I don't know.
We both saw the shootout. Forget the SDR. That was just bad performance. But the HDR, I would highly recommend that TV for most people, personally at 2,500. I think that is a great all-around TV. We're taking gaming out, and even though it does gaming okay, I think for most people who want a premium flagship where, gaming is whatever, man, that brightness is 75-inch, and they fixed the brightness in the recent firmware update. I would, for HDR impact, watching Netflix and stuff, I'd recommend it myself. How about you guys at 2,500?
My biggest problem with the QN90A 75 is that its biggest competitor is itself at 85, because the 85 has been 3,200 already.
Oh, so, dang. No, that's a great point.
Much bigger than, to me, like, that's a no-brainer. $500 for an 85. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, eventually you have to think about what wall space you have and everything. So, I mean, there'll be some people that can get a 75, 85, 65. But if you're looking at a 65 right now and it's like 2,200, and then you're like, I can get a 75 for 25 or 2,600. Yeah. I mean, there'll be people that are in that, and then they'll just pick the 75 because it's the one that they can fit on their wall or whatever. But yeah, you're right. I mean,
I'm just saying no size restriction. If it's a $500 price difference, that's, to me, that would be.
Yeah, normally, because normally you don't get that much more. You like 10-inch screen size at 75 to 85, normally pretty expensive. Yeah,
it's usually $1,000 difference.
Yeah,
that 85. If you have the room, I noticed that Samsung is incredibly aggressive dropping it, and if you notice, they want to get rid of that inventory by spring, right? The Q90T at the large sizes are by spring. It's like, get out of here. So. If you guys are in the market for 85 or 75, definitely keep an eye on the Samsung flagships after the new year, because they're just going to keep on discounting until they're gone. I do love the strategy where Sony's kind of like hanging on to their prices. It seems kind of odd to me, but each company has their thing, right?
I think Samsung's willing to have smaller margins because they're such a bigger company.
Yeah, they're selling, man. They're just
Yeah.
selling units.
They are. This is what I was talking to Robert at Value Electronics about is they move so many TVs to the hospitality high volume. It's like Hertz buys up all the Tauruses and Mondeos, right? Cars that we would never recommend, but they buy them up, the Chevy Impalas. And that's how they make money on the just mainstream TVs that pays the bills. Margins are maybe 5 or 10%, but they sell so many of them. I think much of their global sales may come from hospitality because in the 4 or 5 hotels I've stayed at the last 3 weeks, driving all over, one hotel had LG and the rest were all Samsungs. No other brand, right? There was no Sony or anything like that. So I think this makes sense why Samsung's killing it in the high volume sales department.
Boom. QN900A too. There you go.
I agree. I'd wait for the 50% off Q900A, and I think Classy will get it. Cassie, 85-inch, Q900A, 50% off. What are your thoughts? Oh, wait.
I got nowhere else to put this, so until I move. And then when I move, I'm probably on projector.
Okay, so we talked about prices. Michelle Alexandria has a 10% Best Buy coupon, 75-inch Q900 for $2,600 now. Yeah. Would you get that 10% off when Black Friday hits so you could double up on that discount? You might be at $2,500 even. Will you wait for that? I say wait. You're so close to Black Friday. Don't do it, Michelle.
Maybe you can't. Maybe it's time sensitive.
Yeah.
It could be time sensitive. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a good idea. I mean, you can't wait forever for these prices to be rock bottom. I mean, I think you can get a couple $100 worth of use out of the TV in the next couple months. So go for it.
Yep.
Now, here's something that I never thought about. So Preston says he really keeps the TV longer than 2 years. And I thought about it. You know what? As reviewers, of course, we don't keep TVs longer than 2 years. But is this the trend for many of you? Because people don't keep cell phones for more than 2 years, maybe 3. And cell phones definitely cost more than some of these TVs I've put up. Are people keeping TVs less? I mean, 2 years, is that average now? Or is that a lot? Because I think the last statistic we had, Consumer Reports, people keep TVs for an average around 5.5 to 6 years. Is that changing? You're an installer, Brandon, and you guys are friends. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I normally get calls from people every 3 or 4 years at least, but normally it's for a different TV. So yeah, or like they'll upgrade the living room TV and move the one into the bedroom. And so that's typically what happens is normally people will buy a new TV and then relegate the old one to a different room for the kids or to the guest room or to the bedroom. So it's not like always a direct replacement and then chuck the other one. But yeah, somewhere between 3 to 6 years or so, it's pretty normal.
And I would say enthusiasts are different. Enthusiasts will do every year or two and then do whatever they got to do to get rid of the old one.
Yeah, like a new pair of shoes. I get a new pair of shoes like every 6 months.
But at least you walk in. There's a reason. Oh, it's worn out, right? Yeah.
So you get stinky.
especially sneakers that you really work out in. Yeah, me too. And David keeps it for 4 or 5 years. And this is why it's taking him so long to choose a TV, because he wants to make the right decision. Because you know what? 4 or 5 years is a long time to be stuck with a TV you don't like. And you'll like David, the TVs you buy this year.
Just get the A90J. I don't want you to have any more problems. Just get the A90J and be done with it.
Yep. And at worst, it's the king of TVs. So certain content, if you watch that content, you just can't lose. That's my opinion. Wait, David, did you end up buying a TV anyway? I assume you haven't bought one yet.
Like 3 TVs. Oh. He got the A80J, then he got the G1, and now he's thinking the X95J.
Yeah,
he's out of control.
He didn't like the dimming for the A80. And then his G1 had panel problems, and he liked the A80 look better.
You know what, David? I'm thinking stagger, right? Instead of buying it all in 1 year, and then every 4 years you buy a whole bunch of TVs, stagger it out. Every 18 months, buy a TV, and then that way you're always buying a new TV every year or so, right? You staggering it out. Robert
was asking here just real quick if I don't put this up. Why not about this Z9J reviews? I think if you saw, you can go look at the TV shootout. We had it on there. I didn't perform that well in the 8K.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Go ahead. You guys paid attention.
I'm Classy. I want you to talk about this because this was one that we all look forward to watching. What are your thoughts on the Z9J, Cassie?
That right there. That's all it is.
That right
Is that
there.
on the left, the
Yep.
Z9J, and the right is the Samsung, right?
Yep. And like the Samsung has that little bit of blooming here, but like above the head, there's no blooming. Over here, there's like no blooming. The Sony is blooming everywhere.
The Samsung looked really nice. I have to admit, I thought the
Yeah,
Samsung
it
looked really
did.
impressive.
It
And
did.
I don't know if our guy Rayner is in the house, but he's the one that kept telling us he liked it. And I think I have to go with him. It looked pretty solid against those other TVs. And man, the what was it, the Z10? That looks pretty awesome too. But you know,
Yeah,
that's
dude.
like, how much is that? How much is that one?
30,000.
Yeah.
30,000.
Yeah. So
So yeah,
expensive.
no.
Yeah, it's like
That's almost affordable, as FOMO would say. It's almost affordable.
It's almost affordable.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, what's cool about the
30 Gs.
Z10 is that it was as bright as the A90. That's because it has such a bigger power supply. So even without a heatsink, it can get as bright. It's just, can you imagine if we had that power supply with an A90 with a heatsink?
Yeah.
I mean, we would easily have over 1,000 nit OLEDs if they weren't restricted by power requirements.
And it makes so much sense that the 8K TV has mini LED because it needs to push more light than a 4K. And the Sony without the mini LED, it's just so inefficient. But the worst part is that performance, that blooming. So we normally talk about in a full screen, it looks great. Well, in that case, it doesn't matter if it's a full screen. In that image, the blooming is going to be annoying in a dark or bright room. Knowing that the QN900A is out there for less. And this is the thing. It's not like the Q900A costs more. So I think Sony, seeing the shootout, the 8K shootout, will dramatically drop its prices. Now, normally Master Series do not drop, but the 8K ones tend to get very aggressive. So we'll see how quickly it drops. And right now, our standing recommendation for a flagship 8K is definitely the QN900A. It's just simply a great TV. Well, Classy, what did you say? If it was out when you bought your TV for that price, you'd have picked it. And I think that's a great endorsement.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it is a hard pill to swallow, that price for it. That's why, like, I really wish they would have done like a QN99A that had the performance of it for 4K with a price somewhere in the middle.
Here we have a light case of the FOMOs, Noel. Thank you for the comment. Recently bought an LG C165. Wish I had saved more for the Sony A90J. I thought I saw it for 3250 once. Not many PS5 games actually use 120. So that's the thing is, I think all of us, when we see PS5, we immediately go to a Sony OLED because it looks great on a Sony OLED, end of story. I think LG is a great gaming TV, but the Sony A90J is such a good TV overall that if you can watch or you could play PS5 on the A90J and you can afford it, that would be my choice. And that's what I tell people myself. Michelle, great question. Is TCL coming out with a 75-inch R646? So the answer is yes. It's listed on their website. So it's launched. When it's going to be released is the question. Currently, you cannot buy it, but at the price of $1,850. Now, for those of us in the know, I think that's a great price. I would recommend that TV over any other TV for under $2,000 as a 75-inch 4K TV. Now, their 8K TVs, they only have two, which is the R648 and the OD0 that's released any minute now. I don't know when. I didn't get a date for that release, but it's what, $10,000. So I don't think we're holding our breath for that one. So that leaves you with the 8K 6 series. So that's the only other 8K TV they have coming out this year. And I think that one's a bit overpriced at $3,000 for the 75-inch. I mean, as far as 8K TVs are concerned, it's not super expensive, but as we know, 8K brings nothing to the table. And here's a little bit of shade at the Z9J. If any of you don't know, the Z9J does not display native 8K content. It instead takes it as a 4K and then upscales it to 8K. It cannot read AV1 codecs. And the reason is quite simple. AV1 doesn't have any real content. And when I spoke to the Sony engineers, they were very straightforward. They go, look, by the time 8K movies come out, it will be a different codec. None of the TVs you buy today will process that codec. You do not know what that codec is because Sony is in the movie industry and they're looking at all the codecs being used for 8K and none of them are being considered for movie making, the ones being used now by YouTube. So YouTube's compression codec is uniquely for like their compression, Netflix, streaming. But high-end movie stuff that you would plug into an HDMI port, they're like, no, we don't see it. So on the one hand, it doesn't give you a box to check, so it's kind of embarrassing. But Sony is just being like, okay, get your 8K native Samsung, but good luck finding any content you could play in 5 years when it does come out. So that's something to think about. Not many people think about that, because Sony is at the production side, and they know exactly what kind of 8K codecs will be used for real movies, and it's nothing that's out there right now. It may not have even been developed yet, by the way. They're still working on those codecs. Nothing's been committed. Okay. And today we're not going to have too long of a stream. We want to keep it to an hour, but just come in, talk to us. Any questions you have as we lead up to Black Friday. I think the theme of today is hold off until Black Friday because we're so close. It's mid-September, just another month and a half, and then you have Thanksgiving, and then boom.
Hey, if everybody real quick could take a second to hit the like button, that'd be awesome.
Oh, yeah. Let me take a second to like myself.
Fire the like button real quick.
Let me take a second. I got to like my own video here.
Appreciate it, guys.
Hey, what do you guys have coming up this month or the next month or two? Any big projects on your channel that you want to share and get people on board while we get last bit of questions for the next 15 minutes?
I really haven't been up to too much video-wise. I got a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff and just getting stuff like a new desk and new mounts for everything. Gonna rewire all my stuff with new HDMI cables, things like that, and probably shoot a new video of the A80J with the new camera just to showcase it a little better than what the last one could do.
That's cool.
But I'm gonna get the TCL 5 series, 6 series, probably try U7G. And then
is there an updated 5 series for 2021
Yep.
or is this not okay?
Yeah. So instead of 646, it's 546.
Yeah, because last year's 5 was such a disappointment to me.
Yep. And that's why I have it on my list, but I want to see if the brightness is better because last year it was like 300-400 nits, whatever. So it's not going to compete with the U6G if it's pretty much a carryover. But if they did bump the brightness up, then it could be a good value. And then there's oddly a Vizio M Series J01 is this year's moniker, 58-inch that could be a value gamer's pick because it has VRR. It's 60 hertz, but it's affordable, and it's an odd like 58-inch size. So I might grab that.
We're back to that. Huh? We're back to picking random sizes.
59 and a half, 72 and a quarter. It just cracks me up.
It used to be like 37-inch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know you just put up your X95J versus X90J video, Brandon, and you had a comment when we were off the air talking that, after we've gone through the shootout and the OLEDs that we have, it feels so anticlimactic watching the non-OLED TVs. What were your thoughts at the end of that review comparing the X95J to the X90J?
I mean, I start to really delve into where I would actually buy those TVs. It's just that's the hardest thing. Are they good TVs? Yes, they're both sitting out there. The kids are like, "Ooh, cool, new TVs," and they like them, and they could pick. My son actually said he preferred the X90J because it was not as bright. He said that he liked the contrast better. That was just his initial thoughts. He just looks at it and says it. But also that one is at eye level, and the one on the floor is the X95J on the floor. So,
and which one is this? Which the younger one, the older one?
This is my older son. He's 10. The guy that scored 4, he had 4 touchdown passes and 2 touchdown receptions today in his game. So all offense today.
All right.
And but no, he liked that, and they both look good. But I'm drawn to the brighter screen, and really it was for me the anti-reflective coating is one of those things where if I'm going to have it in a bright room, I can't have that X90J with kind of the average anti-reflective coating. I need one that's it's going to be like the Samsung or that Sony where it's very aggressive so it can beat back the reflections of the windows. But yeah, so that and then it gets me thinking about the A80J for that similar price point. And I'm just for most people that haven't had an OLED before, they don't really understand what they're missing until they get it. And just how sharp the TVs are, the OLED TVs are.
Right.
So I tend to gravitate toward them to reduce the amount of blooming, or to have no blooming, and to have a more uniform screen. So that's what I did there. And then I'm going to be doing some videos. I'm actually moving into our new house next
so
week.
You're in your old house right now, right?
Correct. And I'm going to, after I'm done with this, we're going back over to the new place. We went there. It's huge. It's literally twice the size of this house. So, and it's right at the foothill of the Cowles Mountain down here. So it's a hiking mountain, hiking trails, kind of quiet out there. And I'll have a new YouTube studio, and we'll have a game room, and we'll have, so it's a pretty big house. I'll have a lot of installs. People have been asking me to show them how to like fully install the A90J. So I'll have like a full 83-inch install where I'll wire everything behind it. So that'll be nice.
Can't wait for that. And I'm going to put this one up. Jonathan is not happy that A90J only has one 2.1 input after you plug in the ARC, because he can't do PS5, Xbox Series X. Is this when you recommend the G1, or you can? Well, I mean, is the image quality drop worth it for having both plugged in? I mean, would you just not manually switch it in and out? I mean, having them both at the same time. Here's my thing: you can't play them both at the same time to get the image quality. I mean, is it that bad? Remember the old days when you only had one input for everything and you had to switch out stuff? What's wrong with switching it manually to keep the A90J? I mean, I know it's inconvenient, but would you get a G1 just to avoid that?
My two thoughts are: there's a $50 HDMI 2.1 switch that I have, works perfectly fine.
There you go.
The other thought is, if you do have a PlayStation and Xbox, then yeah, you probably should be playing on the LG.
Well, the Xbox Series X, absolutely. Yeah, I got you. And I know we talked about this, or you talked about this before. Any updates to your LG C1 83-inch Black Friday guesstimate for people saving up?
I don't think any lower than 45, and probably closer to 5.
There you go. So save 5, and that would include tax and everything. We'll see how close he gets. And Andy, thank you, my friend, a regular. Is there any rumors on if Sony will be going to mini LED next year? Trying to consider buying X95J from my living room if I should wait for next year. So, and speaking to the engineering rep who is constantly having his pulse on the US market, here's the thing. The XR chip has resurrected Sony's TV fortunes this year. And if it sells like wildfire, people won't care. They will still buy it. They will not have it next year. Now, they have to make a business case for mini LED. And in order for mini LED to work well with the Sony, they're going to have to spend a lot of R&D recalibrating that XR chip for mini LED, doing everything it takes to make the mini LED work better. And you guys saw TCL last year, right? Their first attempt at mini LED was a blooming, crushing mess. This year, much better. And that costs money. And Sony's like, wait a minute, why do we need to do that? We can just ride this XR chip until people stop buying our LCD TVs. And they're having their margins on these TVs are huge, because you guys see the backwards technology they use, right? After watching both Classy's review and Brandon's review, it appears that the X95J and X90J are still good enough to beat the QNED 90, which has mini LED. And so Sony's like, wait a minute, the reviewers like it still. What do we need to go to mini LED for? And then raise our cost. And their margins are so good. They have so much room to discount. I don't think so. There's no business case for that. Now, as a consumer, boy, would I love that mini LED. But business case, I think Sony is going to stick to OLED and try to get that next generation technology down, whether it's QD display, QNED, or MicroLED Crystal series. That's their focus, but they're okay with OLED and the X95J as is. What are your thoughts and guesses about Sony's plans?
I think that they're just going to stay put with where they are with LCD and really push for OLED. As far as like a personal wish, I think you guys might agree with this. It's not going to happen, but I would like to see a year or two of paused performance and get quality control under control. Like, I don't care if we had the same brightness next year, give us the same TVs, just get rid of the pink tint and the banding and the dirty screen effect, like clean up your factories or whatever. And that will be an improvement I think most people would want.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
I agree.
And
I would literally buy a Samsung TV if they just had no dirty screen, because that's the main problem. Is I'm concerned about getting a 75 or an 85 inch and then having, if I got an 8K 85-inch or something, I mean, first of all, it's kind of expensive, which to our other question we were talking about earlier, it was $9,000 when it came out. So it took kind of out of the consideration for me to get that one versus an A90J. And I'm glad I got the A90J. But, you know, if it was like 6,000 or something, or 5,000 or something more affordable for a Samsung like that, and I could know that it wouldn't be super dirty screen, which I know it's probably going to be, and I'll see it immediately, then I would get something like that. So yeah, I would absolutely love to see them get their quality control under control. As you said, sounds weird to say that, but control under control.
The Q950A is a phenomenal soundbar, and I think everyone that's heard it feels that this is it. This is the be all end all. And honestly, once you have this soundbar, there's no reason to upgrade. I mean, it's that good. I've heard only in a demo at a demo place, and I thought it was pretty cool. As far as soundbars go, you either go all out on a really good discrete system, or you go for a really expensive soundbar for just under $2,000. Everything in between those two, I think, I don't know. I really like the soundbars where they are right now. And every time I see Josh 8K now, I have to laugh because Brian Whisper Status was, you know, we were walking to the bar in the after party, Brandon, and Brian's like, you guys are walking for miles. Are you listening to Josh 8K making left turn and right turns? Is he super chatting you to make me walk a mile? And so Brian's like blaming Josh the whole time for walking.
We were walking the worst routes around New York.
He was like,
we went to three different. We went to 3 different bars trying to find those dudes. They went to the furthest. What was it called? Like, it was Stouts. There was 3 Stouts bars in Midtown Manhattan, like all of them within 2 miles of each other. And we walked to all 3 of them before we found them. But anyways, yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was
fun.
And also soundbar. Oh, someone super chatted about the soundbar, but we can talk about it in a minute.
Oh yeah, go look for it. I couldn't find the super chat. Reginald, I don't see your question. So if there's no question, thank you for the super chat. If there is, then I missed it. Please.
He had said thanks for the D65 tips. Maybe he meant to give that to Classy, but Classy ain't getting that super chat.
All right, Classy. Well, we'll have to take you out. We'll have to get your coffee next time we see you, buddy. Hey, there we go. Shango, thank you for that super chat. Mr. FOMO. Oh, I'm a Mr. Any idea what day this month the HTA9 is out and released? You just have to check all your retailers. So depending on who has it and where, I have some people saying that they see it at Best Buy. So the release is either any minute now or it's already available. I will let's see a review from you. Yes,
I'm gonna be getting it.
Yes, you're gonna get it. Did you get it? Did you get the subwoofer? I made sure Robert.
No, I'm gonna be going over to Sony and probably grabbing it from them. I hope.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, get it.
Sony is in San Diego, and I didn't know that really. I didn't really care, but
get it
now that they're in San Diego. I already got the X90J from them, so now I can not have to buy Sony TVs. I'll just go pick them up and then return them.
Try to ask them to give you any of the subwoofers. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I want it. Yeah. I told them that I wanted that. Until someone else questioned that the Z9G or J, if I can get my hands on it over there, I'll grab it and I'll review it.
That thing's heavy too.
I'm not buying it, man. I'm not buying that TV.
Yeah. Sony there? Heck no. So Shango, for sure, I know you're concerned. It may be scarce. It's okay. I mean, you could wait an extra month or two. As scarce as it is, just like the Denon receivers and all the receivers this year. This one, because it's a bit expensive, it may not be that scarce. It depends on Sony, but even if it is, it's okay. If it ends up being awesome, hey, it just makes it that much better when you get it, right? I got one who ordered it, and he's just like holding his breath for it to come because he's so excited about that.
Yeah, if you're both going to review that, I might get the HTA 7000, the bar.
I've heard good things about that too. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a preference one or the other, but I definitely would be interested in utilizing those A7 or A9 with my Sony TV, you know, and utilizing it as a center channel. I want to see how it sounds.
I just want to see if the soundbar actually comes close to like my mid-range, you know, actual piece together home theater kit. So,
agreed. Okay, it's almost a wrap. Thank you everyone for showing up. And any questions, just come on back to our next live stream. We try to have at least once a week, sometimes 2. And it's not just us. Classy has his live stream as well as KG. We subscribe to Classy if you haven't already. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I know you guys are hoping for the notifiers, but sometimes it doesn't happen if you don't subscribe. And lastly, thank you all for coming. Thank you guys. And Let's see.
Make sure to comment after we're done. Go and comment. So we
Oh
get some
yeah, yeah.
comments
Add
on
some
it.
comments after we're done. Absolutely. And click like if you haven't already.
Click on the like button.
And to all my Trojan friends out there, fight on. Let's hope for a good coach. Bye, everyone.
Good luck.
Pass the remote.
All right.